Do you ever feel stressed or feel anxiety? I know I do, and a lot of people that I talk to do as well. So I want to give you a tip on reducing stress and anxiety. And here's the tip. Pause. Okay, now that we've paused, let me explain. Because a lot of you, when I said that, you're like, what? What are you talking about, Jason? Pausing and I'm stressed. I've got all these things going on. I can't take time to pause. Well, we need to take time to pause, and let me explain why. Because even though it sounds counterintuitive, this is a really big thing for reducing stress. So here's the reason why. When something happens in your life, there's some sort of threat, there's some sort of thing that comes upon you. What happens is stress is when we perceive that that thing, that threat, is going to require more resources than we have available. And so we feel like we can't handle it. That's what causes stress. So how does that relate to the pause? When these things happen, the first thing to kick in is the back of our brain, a little thing called the amygdala. And the amygdala is an old part of the brain that helps to regulate our fight or flight response. Because when something jumps out at us, it kicks in immediately to help us know, do I need to flee from this? Do I need to fight? What is it that I need to do to help myself survive? Okay, that kicks in first, and it kicks in at 11 million bits per second. It's really fast. And so here's where the pause comes in. Our cognitive brain up in the front, that's actually used for logical reasoning, doesn't kick in for 6 or 7 seconds. And it's only going at 40 bits per second. So 11 million versus 40. Huge difference. And so the reason why a pause is so important is because when these stimuli come to us, at first, that back part of our brain kicks in and thinks, oh my gosh, I gotta run, okay? And so here's a way to help explain that and a little tool that you can use in your life to help you out. I want you to think of 3 animals: a bear, a skunk, and a chipmunk, okay? Now, if a bear is coming at you, you probably should run. That's going to require a full chemical and biological response from your body. The adrenaline and everything else is going to go up, and we're going to take off running. Now, the problem is when these stresses come into our life, often we perceive everything to be a bear. And so what that means is if we have 20 different stresses that come into our day, we're effectively running away from 20 different bears during the day. So at the end of the day, if you're feeling really tired and worn out, that's probably why. Because it feels literally like you've run away from 20 bears. So I said, remember, bears, skunks, and chipmunks. So how does that come together? Well, what I want you to do is when the stressor comes, pause for 10 seconds and try to identify or assess, what do you think this really is? Is it something like a bear that requires, us to actually really respond and it's something that we really have to take care of immediately? Is it more like a skunk, where if we see a skunk or we kind of fall upon a skunk, we should be careful because skunks can spray you and that is an inconvenience. But a skunk isn't going to kill you, right? What it's going to do is it's going to spray you if you get in its way. And so that's just an inconvenience. You might have to throw your clothes away, bathe in tomato juice to be able to get it off. But that's it. And then you can move on. If it's a chipmunk, no big deal, right? In fact, they're actually kind of cute. I love watching them when I'm out hiking. And maybe we should just sit there and look at the chipmunk and be grateful that it wasn't a bear. Okay? So some of you are going to say, okay, this is great. Bears, right? Skunks, chipmunks. Those 3 things that we're going to be looking at, right? And trying to assess when that thing comes into our life, Is it something that I really need to deal with or not? If it's a bear, deal with it. If it's the others, get to it when you can. Now, some of you might be saying, I know, Jason, but everything in my life seems like a bear. Maybe it's my boss that feels like a bear. Everything is urgent. Everything has to be done right away. Well, let me tell you a little secret. Sometimes those chipmunks like to seem like they're a bear. And so they like to get really big and pretend like they're a bear to scare you. But when, again, you stop and pause and let your cognitive brain kick in, often you'll find out that those things that you first thought were bears are actually skunks or chipmunks. And that's going to reduce your stress level down. So again, as a quick recap, when those stressors happen in your life, what I want you to do is pause. Pause for 7 to 10 seconds and just breathe. If you need to, just stop and go for the 10 seconds and count out in your mind 10 seconds. And then when your cognitive brain kicks in, decide, what is this that I'm dealing with? Is it a bear? Is it a skunk? Or is it a chipmunk? And from that point, you can determine how best you need to respond to it, because we want to respond, not react. And that's your tip for reducing your stress.